Hello, and welcome to the Part 3 and final session of our DITA 1.2 interactive tutorial. As some of you may know from our Part 1 and Part 2 session, my name is Hannah Samaru, Marketing Coordinator at Data Conversion Laboratory, and I will be your moderator today. For those of you who are not familiar with DCL, we convert and organize content to create electronic documents, populate databases, publish on the web, and basically get it ready for tomorrow's technology. Once again, we're very excited to have Noz Urbina from Mekon Limited back with us. Noz is a Senior Consultant and Business Development Manager at Mekon. With years of experience as a content strategy and content management consultant, Noz has provided services to Fortune 500 organizations and small to medium enterprises. Mekon is a leading global systems integrator based in the UK and focused on increasing the effectiveness of business content and technical communications. We are thrilled that Noz is here to share his expertise with us today. Now I will turn the presentation over to Noz from Mekon. Thank you, Noz.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you, everybody, for attending. So this has been a very interesting little series. We've done this three-part mini-series where we're doing small crash course introductions to the new features in DITA 1.2. Here we're going to wrap up with learning and training and kind of the rest, everything else that we haven't had time to cover yet. So, very quick thing about me. There's me in my on my blog. It's a great place to keep in touch with me. There's some other links. That's my company website that I work for, my blog URL, and you can keep in touch on Twitter as well. Please do invite you to subscribe. But if you want to meet in person, you can also see me at CS Applied 2012 in London this spring, March 1st and 2nd. And you can look up more sessions. This will be the fourth one I do as part of the DCL learning series on the LinkedIn groups, or if you just Google it, then you should be able to find those. Okay, so our series broke down like this. We had part 1 where we did keys. Then we went into subject scheme, maps, and new Conref features. And now we'll be wrapping up with part 3. Part 2 and 3 have been recorded because I am currently, by the time you're hearing this, will have been in China and not able to do them live. But you can submit questions in text form, and we will answer them, and we will submit them back so that you can see, have that interactivity and see your answers online. Okay, so what's new in DITA 1.2? I'm going to start off with something called the constraint mechanism. The constraint mechanism is a sort of simplified specialization. It is the same technical process, so if you're not kind of techy enough to want to be getting into specialization in DITA 1.1, then constraints are probably in that same kind of ballpark. But they don't require that you change the base type. They're sort of an overlay, so you configure the differences between your version of specialization and the original, and you tighten up the content model. So you can control things which were not controlled in the first one. There actually are 2 constraints in DITA 1.2 already, even though they're shipping the mechanism and they're already shipping 2 implementations. The first is the DITA machine industry constraint type. So there we have tasks, and we wanted to add new controls to tasks for the machine industry because they're very specific of how they do procedures, because they're handling machinery that's dangerous, and they wanted to do that in a particular way. So use constraint mechanism to do that. And they've also added new elements such as hazard statement to the DTDs so that you can do warnings and hazard statements in a particular way as well. Also, the base task topic type has become more relaxed. You can put in generic sections, and you can do things you couldn't do in the previous tasks because some people felt that the old task was too strict and too restrictive. But you can still create the old 1.1 tasks with the constraint mechanism. You just implement the constraint, and it tightens it back up so that it works like the old tasks in 1.1. I personally liked the old tasks in 1.1, but now you have both options available. So we've also got fancier glossaries, much fancier glossaries. In DITA 1.1, glossaries were sort of a term and a definition. So you just had your term up there, and then a definition, and then you wrote whatever you wanted in that definition. Now, in the glossary entries, in the gloss body, we have a whole raft of new elements. You can see here what part of speech the term is, its principal form, the surface form. You have notes on its usage, alternates, abbreviations, status, properties, symbols, and so on and so on and so on. So there's quite a lot of structure here. For those of you who are really seriously managing glossaries, then there's a lot more power in the box for you. There's also the fact that they're still standard DITA, so you can conditionalize them. So if you have different glossary definitions for different regions, different users might have richer or less rich glossary definitions shown to them. You can still do that because it's regular DITA topic. Okay. There's some new minor elements. There's some other stuff like text and body div and section div, some things that people have been asking for. But rather than go through all those, I'm just going to point you to the spec there where you can have a look. And I think that I'm covering all the really core functionality which people are going to need to look at for 1.2. And the new minor elements are sort of new extra little bits, which as you read up on the new spec, you'll see how they can be applied. The biggest, we say kind of save the best for last, the biggest is definitely the learning and training content specializations. They are based on the question tests interoperability specification, so they're based on an pre-existing standard, and they've ported a lot of that knowledge into the DITA world and made it all DITA compatible. And also, you can publish to SCORM. SCORM is a way to package up your learning information into reusable packages which can be referenced and shared in systems that understand the SCORM standard. So learning management systems, or LMSs, that are SCORM compliant can automatically take in your DITA content now and put it out to users and record the results and do metrics and tracking because it's been wrapped up as a SCORM package. Okay, so learning and training defines extensive new structures. It's the biggest addition to the spec, I think, since the spec came out. It's the biggest subcommittee contribution for supporting learning and training content, and I think that's with good reason, because there's such a market need for sharing between documentation and training and other types of content that you might do for DITA. They've got new topic types, a learning interactions domain, a learning metadata domain, and a learning map domain. So you can also, as well as using these new special learning and training elements, reuse directly from existing content. Because it's DITA, anything that's got common elements, you can use your conrefs, you can xref between them, you can use conkeyrefs and Conref Push, as in with the new DITA 1.2 features you'll see in the past 2 sessions. But you can also kind of embed it right in there. With the necessary dot plugins, you can also make your learning content interactive. So I'll show that to you in a second. First, I'll take you through the types. The new types are learning plan, so needs and goals, task analysis, learning taxonomies, and more. In a formal, full-on learning management system, you have a learning plan before you've even written the course, and you pass that on as an asset that goes with the courseware. Then a learning overview, learning objectives, info for the user, prerequisites, duration, all sorts of metadata like that. Learning content is the content itself. It's where you would usually put tasks, concept, references that you were using, as well as new sections and new content you can just put straight into the topic type. Also, you've got learning summary, which I think is pretty self-explanatory, recaps what you've done, and it should marry up with the objectives you defined in the learning overview. And then learning assessment, which is you've decided what you're going to teach them, given them an overview, given the content, summarized it, and then in the assessment you check how good was that learning, and it's there where you can tie in with learning management systems and measure the progress, measure how effective it was and how effective people are after ingesting your new content. So I'm going to zoom in on the learning interactions domain. These are new elements. They're generally used in the learning assessment topic type. And you have things for interacting, questions, types of questions, hotspots, matching, open questions, where it's like essay style where you just write in your own answers. And the learning map domain. The map domain gives you elements in a map that are useful for laying out learning plans, learning courseware. So you have learning group, learning object, references to plans, pre-assessments, and so on. This is all the stuff that the subcommittee defined as necessary semantics to structure a learning course properly and be able to feed it into systems that automate management of learning. Learning metadata, again, very important for feeding into automated systems. The learning metadata domain, I'm not going to go through all these, but covers things like the interactivity level, the difficulty, the context, and other types of things that you would want to feed the right learning material to the right people and measure the right the metrics on how it's being used and how people do on that material. Okay, here I've got an example of an assessment. That, as I said, that's from the this new assessment domain. You can see the LC prefix on all of the new elements. Title is not a new element, so it doesn't have the LC prefix. You've got the question, why DITA for learning, the question, content itself, and then you've got an answer option group, which is full of new LC elements. You've got the first answer, which is true, and then the correct response flag, and that's an element that you put in there so the processor can know which answer option is the correct one, so that it can deliver the correct feedback, which is in the next element there. There's this excellent, that is correct response, and the other ones will not have the flag and will not give a positive feedback when you click on them. So given something like that, and given a learning map, we can create something like this. So this is a map that I've downloaded from the OASIS samples. This is a map about the learning and training specialization written in learning and training specialization elements. So you have all the same structures that I was just going over, overview, problems, and then quizzes and summaries. And the quiz is the interaction one that I was just showing you. So you have a quiz which has various question structures into it, various question structures in it, and then you've got the interactivity stuff where it's automatically taken my my XML markup, and I can click on responses and get interactivity. So this you get free out of the box with the Open Toolkit plugins, and then of course you can style and customize the look of this for your needs. But the idea is it's coming from DITA, so it's single source ready. We've developed prototypes that deliver learning and training material to the iPhone, so you can do assessments on the train, and they could be feeding from a learning management system, which is tracking the results from all those people who are doing all those training courses, possibly all around the world, on whatever device they want, print, web, etc. All the same benefits that we have with ordinary DITA, you can now apply to your learning materials, and you can excite your learning and training departments with all the different ways that they could define and deliver training materials with new DITA 1.2. Okay, so that's the assessment one. The other one I wanted to focus in on was the learning content. That's this map over here on the left, by the way. That is the actual map of the HTML that we were just looking at, where I did the interactivity. And this is one of the topics. One of the topics here I've got, this is a learning content topic. The learning content topic, the body of it ends there. So the learning content that's there is really kind of preamble for other topic types, which is going to embed below the body. So it's got its title and short description, and then simply the introductory information here in the LC intro, and the time it's going to take you in the duration tag. Then immediately you're reusing a standard DITA task. This is a totally ordinary DITA task based on the regular task DTD, which they've stuck right in there. They can embed that directly, and they can author it in line, or you could have Conref'd it in so that you could have an existing tag task, and from the task tag here, Conref out to the task tag there, and reuse using that mechanism. All same with Conref Push, of course, and Conref and keys. What you could also do is use a new tutorial info element. Here, I've created an example where they've reused the task, but in order to make it so that in training output you have tutorial info, I've set up a condition on this so that when audience is trainees, then the publishing from here would allow this tutorial info to come through, because if you're in standard documentation, you don't want tutorial info showing up to the user. So with combining conditions and reusing into learning and training, we can have one reusable task, which is both used for real field use in a real scenario and also for training operations. Then if we go further down, after the task, I've got the learning assessment here that's embedded in another topic, showing you how you might assess somebody after they've done the task. And you can see the question, answer options, and then the correct response flag again, and the learning summary after that. So really, you can wrap all your existing content, task, concepts, references, and surround it by this new learning and training material so that it can be reused in new and more flexible ways. Hannah, how am I doing on time?
Hi. You've been talking for about a little less than 20 minutes, like 18 minutes. So.
Great. Okay, so just about right.
Yep.
So I'm going to close off now with machinery task that I mentioned earlier, because machinery task, as I said, it's a new information type with new elements for complex and hazardous machinery. It was implemented with a constraint mechanism, and it's added some new elements as well. So with the machine task domain, you've got prelrex, which is a new one, or you can have context or section. Then you've got steps, result, and example, like in regular tasks, but they must be in that order. And then close rex. Everything else is the same as regular tasks, which, by the way, are now called strict tasks. If I didn't say earlier, the regular tasks from DITA 1.1 are strict tasks, and ordinary task is now the one that's more loose. What prelrex is, prelrex is preliminary things, not ordinary prerequisites, but specifically required conditions, personnel, equipment, supplies, spares, and other safety information. And then closing rex is that you can do a task and you can be done, but to really finish the task, you might have to close it off. So certain conditions that have to be fulfilled to know that you actually completed the task successfully, but aren't within the ordinary step flow. They've also added hazard statement. As you can see there, the hazard statement contains a message panel which classifies the type of hazard and then tells you how to avoid it. And it goes before the command. So in 1.1 DITA, you could put notes and warnings and cautions, but they came after the step. So the machine industry wasn't happy with that. You know, you need to warn someone that they could cut their arm off before they take the action that might cut their arm off. So in machinery tasks, they've put that hazard statement right up top at the beginning of every step, as the machinery industry demands. Okay, so now that's basically everything. I've covered DITA 1.1. What usually takes 3 days, I've covered in a little under an hour. So I hope everyone has lots of questions, and will keep in touch with us. There's our details again. And I'd like to thank everyone who, especially those of you who watched all 3 sessions, and hope you do submit some questions, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Hannah, do you want to close us off?
Sure, yeah. As Noz mentioned, thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email him at noz.urbina@mekon.com, and you can see that right on the screen. The answers will be posted online at the DCL Learning Series section of dclab.com, where you can also find all 3 parts of this interactive tutorial. Thank you again, everyone, and have a beautiful day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.